The Springboks finally play the All Blacks this weekend, but before that, the Bulls got beaten by the All Blacks. And what does that mean for what's coming? Now, I'm going to mainly focus on the actual match and the takeaways from the match. I'll do another video later as we take a step back and look at all the players for the actual test match. But there is quite a lot that seeds into what we can expect for the next weekend. So this is 20 takeaway from the All Blacks 50-19 win over the Bulls. I'm going to be looking at both teams. I think there's some really interesting takeaways for the Bulls here as well. And the first one is really just that the All Blacks looked tour ready, right? They looked like they'd actually... It capped off a pretty complete performance across the 3 matches. The Stormers gave a nice challenge. The Sharks allowed them to showboat in the rain. And this one allowed them to just show that they've got it. It wasn't really just the points that they scored. It was that actually they looked pretty connected. The set piece had some great moments. You know, the provincial phase, I mean, we've still got the Lions to come, but the initial provincial phase is over. The All Blacks scored 142 points and they conceded 40 across the Stormers, the Sharks, the Bulls. They've prepared well. But the score, if we come to number 2 of our takeaways, doesn't really tell the full story, because actually what we're seeing is early on at 0-0, the Bulls were attacking, right, from a 5-metre scrum. They lost it. New Zealand escaped and swung the play out. But there was moments, like they had opportunities wiped out in that first half, right? Like there was Rudolph, sorry, I'm looking down, I've got notes. His effort, and there was another one that involved the flanker. Did I write down his name? Liebenberg. And there's those opportunities, right? So yes, look, the Bulls were comfortably beaten, but that 24-0 half-time score was maybe a little harsher than the territory and the opportunities suggested. And actually the really exciting thing at number 3, if you're a New Zealander, is that the New Zealand scrum found its teeth, right? Like on the loose, we had Xavier Numere, who was looking good. Tyrell Lomax on the tight head side. They were central to a really much, much stronger scrummaging performance, and that was great to see from a New Zealand perspective. There was that 5-metre defensive scrum. It was 0-0 at the time, and it felt like a real, like, oh no, we're here. And that was quite important. Of course, it doesn't hurt that they had the absolute power machines of Fabian Holland and Patrick Tuipulotu behind them, because they're both pretty strong, right? And they both give you a decent chunk of power behind you. And I think that's really important. Number 4. Marcell Coetzee, I always worry that I'm saying that wrong. He was really strong. He's 35, but he carried repeatedly, he defended relentlessly, and I think he got the 3rd try, didn't he? Was it the 3rd try? But he got a try. He basically, even at 35, still looked pretty capable at this level of intensity, right? And I think that's quite important for Bulls as they go forward into the URC and all the rest. Actually, he is going to be key, and also he's bringing through all those other players, right, setting those standards. So I think that's pretty exciting. At the other end of the scale, at number 5 on our takeaways, you've got Anton Segner, who's a much younger man, much younger man. But he's absolutely forced himself into the conversation around who's going to be taking to the test team for the All Blacks, right? Like, his breakdown work, his defensive output, he took it. He grabbed the opportunity. I think he was man of the match as well. He's gone from being kind of a interesting squad selection, which I think was justified, but to someone that really has to go, they really must be looking at it now going, well, maybe I have to make sure Anton Segner's in the match day 23. He did really well, and very strong future to come with it. At number 8, Rudolph made 16 tackles, sorry, just checking the notes, 16 tackles and won 3 turnovers. He also provided the kind of like initial surge from the scrum that eventually Stravino Jacobs' try came from. He was great at the base of the scrum, right? Like he did some really good things. It was a difficult night for the Bulls, but actually at number 8, Rudolph showed some real intent and some real positives for them, I thought. Now, this is one that I have been hoping for ages. The All Blacks at number 7 are earning their width. And that's really important to me. It's not just throwing the ball around and going, look, we're a really expensive team. Because that's exciting, but you've got to earn the right. And actually, you know, you look at Pelaka, you look at Segner, who we've already mentioned, you look at the front row, they continuously carried hard into the Bulls, and they went like, we're going to make you retreat first before we get that quick ball, and we use the pullback passes and the offloads and the multiple waves coming through. The problem sometimes has been that New Zealand gets all excited and tries to do that from early. They haven't earned the right. They haven't made a bend in the middle so that it can happen. Felt like they were doing that a lot more. Number 8. This is a bit of an alarm, if I'm honest. 42 missed tackles for the Bulls. New Zealand repeatedly generated quick ball, and that forced the Bulls into a really big defensive workload, right? And that missed tackle count at 42 is probably as concerning as the 50 points conceded. And look, we could see it, right, in the centres. We saw that Vorster and Gans, they were put on huge pressure by that kind of New Zealand team changing the points of attack and really giving them a defensive puzzle to solve, and they weren't always up to it. That said, and we'll come back to it, actually New Zealand left a lot of chances out there. They made a lot more breaks, and they would be pretty disappointed to have scored 50, which sounds odd, right? But they did leave a lot of points out there. Number 9, Leroy Carter. Mate, he is becoming pretty hard to ignore, right? Like, on the right wing, he scored twice. He was one of the better kind of destructive attacking players. He didn't, and I think what's really exciting is he didn't just stay on his wing, right? Like, he went looking for work, and he appeared across the field. There was the one where the try that was pulled back for the knock-on from the Bulls, and you could see him sort of walking back, and I saw somebody comment on somewhere going, oh, where's his work rate at? And it was like, he just could see the obvious knock-on, because everywhere else, every time else, Leroy Carter works like a dog to get in position. So to see him kind of not paying that much attention. Now, granted, I'm sure Dave Rennie will be played to the whistle, mate, and next time I want to see you running. But he works hard. Look, there was still the odd loose decision. There was a couple of forced offloads, but that raw attacking threat is pretty exciting. So halfway 10, number 10 of our 20. Stravino Jacobs made only, I think, so I've got the stats down here. He made 4 carries, but he produced 52 metres of gain and a try. Brother did pretty well, right? And the finish that he did have, well, he beat Beauden Barrett. And look, people will come to it, but people give Beauden Barrett a bit of grief. I think he actually did pretty well in that game. I think there's a few things where he showed his experience, and I also think he helps make the likes of Jacob look much better because he's that guiding voice that's there. Anyway, for Stravino, as the Bulls supporters are kind of looking ahead to the URC, I think there's an encouraging glimpse there of what he could do with a few more touches against other provincial teams. I was very pleased at number 11 to see Rieko Ioane look like a 13 again. He looked like an outside centre, right? He carried strongly, he attacked space, and scored New Zealand 6 tries, so that's pretty handy. He just looked involved, and there's been a change with him, right? So, and you can see it in a few interviews. It seems pretty clear that he was disengaged last year, and he didn't feel like he was quite there. Whether that was within the team environment or things going on for him, whatever, right? He clearly this year he feels re-engaged with the team. He feels like he wants it. He feels like he's into it, and that's great news, particularly because poor old Billy Proctor's gone home injured. Rieko stepping up at the perfect time. Number 12, the Bulls bench. Fair play, right? It actually changed the contest a little bit, because when you think of the halfback Paul DeWitt coming on, he increased the tempo and kind of stepped that up a little bit. It was on at fullback, Hakeem Kunini. I can't say that. That's why I had to check the notes. I didn't get it right, I'm almost certain. But he brought a nice attacking energy in towards the end. There was then also on the bench, you had a couple of Springboks who have been added, right? So you've got Ulrich Lowe, clearly adds a load of physicality at the end there. So that kind of thing helps. I touched on it earlier, but at 13, Beauden Barrett, I felt, looked a lot more like Beauden Barrett. He's got a bit of grief this tour, and I think it did him well to move back to fullback. I think 10, we've got Ruben Love, right? And, goodness, we've got Josh Jacob, like he did well. I think 15 is a good place. He can choose when to enter the line. He has a little bit more time. His experience can pay off. His passing can kind of help create opportunities. He wasn't flawless. He got beaten for, I think it was Jacobs beat him to get, like, was it the first, was it the second? Might have been the second try of the night. But overall, you know, I thought he didn't actually do too badly. I thought he was pretty good, and he does a job for you, right? That experience sometimes is helpful. And by the way, when we come to the test matches, experience is worth something. At those tough moments when you're running out at like Ellis Park or something like that, stuff is tough. And so having a bloke like that does actually, I think, make quite a big difference. 14, we're going through. So the Bulls, well, they found something at halftime, because they were nilled, right? They had nothing. All 19 of their points came in the second half. And they got that quick try into the second half, right? You had room for Mark, scored straight off the bat. And I think, you know, they created a few opportunities. I thought that was exciting. I thought fair play to them, and I thought it was because they'd been nilled to half-time. I thought it was really positive to see that kind of step back up again. So fair play to the Bulls. Codie Taylor at 15. Well, he only needed 40 minutes. And do you know why he only needed 40 minutes? Because that brother is starting at the test match, right? Like, he's I just think he's starting. He scored a couple of times, which is always nice. Great return for him. He did have a tight calf earlier in the tour, so he wasn't always playing. But I think they got 40 minutes in him. They went, yes, you're still our man. I think that experience will pay. I think he'll be starting against the Boks at Ellis Park. Number 16. Hey, look, 50 points is exciting. But they left quite a lot of points out there, the All Blacks. New Zealand repeatedly broke through the defensive line. But their execution and actually their finishing wasn't always that clinical. Now, I am a New Zealander, but I do think in some ways it's a good thing, right? It puts that pressure back on them to go, yeah, great. Line breaks are exciting. If you don't, and you will get less of them against the Springboks, right? So you've got to try and take them. So there's a lot to work on there. I think they'll come through. I think the 50 points is a great thing, particularly when you consider they really weren't converting everything. So take it from that perspective. Things to work on. Keep going. 17, we're coming through. Josh Jacob, that was an audition for him, right? Like, that was a big moment. And I thought he did pretty well in it. That was his first All Black start. Love the 50-22s, by the way. We're seeing quite a lot of those come through. His kicking defended, I think he kicked 4 conversions, so fine. I think he's not going to start the test, right? But it's really good to see that quality and that experience come through and those options, because we just don't know where things are going to get to by the 4th test. So fair play, Josh Jacob, really exciting. Number 18. We are back on the All Blacks as a broader piece. Look, there's a few things they needed to resolve from the first couple of games and question marks that were out there. So this wasn't just about getting better at the attacking. This was the scrum, much stronger, much more positive. This was more defence and making sure that actually came through, and discipline. This was about making sure that actually they weren't giving away 3 yellow cards in a single game, right? They did a good job of that. And actually those are the things that are probably more important than the tries they scored, right? Because we're going to need those against the Springboks. And the Springboks are going to be hard, and they are going to apply a lot more pressure. So you need to show it against the Bulls that those things can happen, because it's going to be tougher next week. 19, we're nearly there, team. The second half still had a little bit of a warning in it. And my notes down here, I basically just put a note to myself to remind myself they were 24-0 at halftime, and they conceded 3 tries after the break. So there's a warning sign there for the All Blacks, just to go, look, you've got to be aware that things change, momentum changes, things move, right? So the defensive picture got less organised in the second half. And there's going to be periods against South Africa where the structure disappears. You'll be punished way more harshly. So that's one to be aware of, one to kind of come through. And that really leads me to my final point, which is probably the most important. The All Blacks and All Blacks fans can't mistake provincial games for Test rugby. Different beasts altogether. So it's been a really good warm-up. It's been really positive to see some of the growth that's come through in that. And it's been great, right? But these URC teams they're right at the beginning of their pre-season. Now, don't get me wrong, they will have been preparing for this from a long way out. And this is a huge game. If you're going to play the All Blacks, how exciting, right? So it is big. And 50-19 against the Bulls, that matters. That's a good result. Scrum improvement, that matters. Attacking cohesion, that matters. But this doesn't predict what happens at Ellis Park in the first test. This is going... New Zealand got what they needed from these 3 provincial games to be able to confidently sit back, kind of assess where all the players are at, have a good run out for people, excuse me, and still have work-ons before the big test, and the big test is coming. So that's that, really. That's 20 takeaways. I am going to do another video, I don't know when, might even try and record it shortly. I'm waiting for one of my children at a club, because I have some thoughts that I've already put down around the first test. And I've been tossing up in my mind whether I should wait for the teams to be named or actually just kind of do some thematic chat before that, because I think some of the big themes are true regardless of who's named. But it might be more interesting with the team's name. So, hey, look, actually holler if you would like to know if one of you would like that, and whether you'd like that with the teams already named, or if you'd like one beforehand, and then one once the teams are named. Don't know. Let's have a chat. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. This car's starting to warm up because I have not got the engine on, and I'm going to start sweating. So I'm going to say, see you later.